drive. Today, Rohit fights back immense G-forces in a blisteringly quick Porsche Taycan Turbo GT with Weissach pack. We pit two of the most popular premium commuter motorcycles against each other, and a quick look at Ather's first family scooter, the Ather Rizta. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini. That Porsche has made an immensely powerful Taycan Turbo GT with Weissach pack, which can go from 0 to 100 kmph in just 2.2 seconds in launch control mode. That is immensely fast, isn't it? And it also makes it to the list of the top 10 fastest EVs in the world today. Now, Rohit couldn't stop grinning after driving this car on track. Here's that story.
This is the Porsche Taycan Turbo GT with Weissach pack. Honestly, it takes longer for me to say that name than the car takes to reach from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. Take a look.
So the car also comes with better brakes, it's got forged wheels, and these are shod with the Pirelli Trofeo RS tires, whereas the Turbo is going to get the Pirelli P0R. So what you get is this massive wing at the rear with the Weissach written on it. What you don't get is seats in the rear. You get a massive carbon fiber trunk for storing away some stuff instead. You get a carbon fiber B-pillar as well. And then you'll see more wings down here in the bumper. But to show you what it really does, I can't do it here. I can't do it on the track. We'll have to go into a wind tunnel. So essentially the winglets at the front are going to give you 80 kilos of downforce, while the massive ring at the rear is going to give you 140 kg of downforce. That's 220 kilos of downforce. And compared to the Turbo, there's also a lot of weight savings. It's about 75 kilos lighter. That's about 2.2 tons, which means it shouldn't be too heavy to lift. Let's give that a try. Yeah.
What that also shows you is that it's got a completely flat underside. There are of course vents in between that will help you cool down the brakes, that will give better downforce, that will give it better aerodynamic efficiency and all of that. And what that essentially translates to is faster corner speeds and efficient braking performance.
So this is the launch control mechanism. Sport Plus, on the brakes, on the throttle. And 150 already, 150 already. Whoa, whoa. I mean, does the world need a Taycan Turbo GT Weissach pack? Maybe not. Does Porsche need it? They definitely do. This is basically a halo model. A halo model to show what Porsche can do, the kind of prowess that they have on electric technology already. I mean, this is still the first generation of an electric vehicle from Porsche, right? Yes, it's the facelift. Yes, they have thrown the kitchen sink at it in terms of the enhancements that they have. But I mean, right from day one, the Taycan has just showed us what it is, right? If the electric sports car becomes the future, the Taycan very well showed us that it was in safe hands. And that's attack mode. Compared to the Turbo, this one will give you 120 kilowatts of power for 10 seconds. That's quick. And there'll be that sonic sound as well to tell you are going really fast. That's the only oral drama that you get here. I was doing over 220 kilometers while talking to you. That's how effortless it feels in this car. The amount of grip that this thing has is unbelievable. I mean, this is still a 2-ton car, right? They've saved about 75 kilos compared to the Turbo S, and that's with a lighter windshield, lighter carbon fiber seats, no seats at the back, just a carbon fiber trunk for you to just store a little bit of stuff. And that saved them about 75 kilos, but this is still over 2.2 tons, and honestly it just doesn't feel like that. The Taycan base did feel like that. The Taycan Turbo not so much, but the GT, oh my god, this just feels like a proper sports car. And the way it goes around, yes, it is still fun. Yes, it's definitely a lot of fun. Not the same kind of fun as a 911. I know I keep repeating that every time I'm reviewing a Taycan, but honestly, yeah, there is a lot of connect. There is a lot of connect with the GT. Not so much when I drove the Taycan 4S, but with this, there's that boost mode again. It's like pressing spacebar for NOS in your favorite racing game from the 90s. Reminds me of Need for Speed. Wow. The only thing I'm missing right now is a proper gearbox, because you see these paddle shifters are not for shifting gears, of course. Yes, this is still a two-step transmission, same as the Taycan Turbo, but with quite a few revisions. In fact, the second gear has been tuned for higher top speed, which is why you get over 300 kilometers per hour on the GT, whereas the Turbo is still restricted to under 250 kilometers an hour. Now for that boost mode, what they've done is use the plus side of the paddle shifters to let you have that boost. Yes, you can still do it using this little switch on the steering, but then when you are on attack pace, when you're in that attack mode, as they rightly call this particular boost mode in the GT4, you want it to be easier to use, which is exactly why they have put it on the paddle shifter instead. So will they build something on top of the GT? You never know. It's Porsche. They love to push their limits. They love to push their engineering team to deliver something more powerful, something faster, something that goes even faster around the racetrack. Now, just to give you an example, the GT in some sections of the Nürburgring was 25 kilometers an hour faster than the Turbo. That's a lot. That's like light years in racing terms. So nothing is going to stop them from pushing the GT even further. Maybe an RS variant, you never know. Just because, you know, just because they want to show their prowess with electrics, they might just do it. You never know, because Porsche loves lap records. Porsche loves going faster. That need for speed, even in the electric era, is still very much there. And it's not just for Porsche, it's also for people who buy Porsches, which is precisely why cars like the Taycan GT exist. Which is why I won't be surprised to see even faster versions of the Taycan come in, whether or not e-fuel becomes a reality, whether or not e-fuel pushes the limit further. Wow, one hell of a ride. One hell of a ride.
Well, Porsche is certainly breaking ground with its powerful lineup of Taycan models, and it's also giving competitors something to think about. Now, we'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we pit the new Hero Xtreme 125R against the TVS Raider. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, we take the TVS Raider and the Hero Xtreme 125R for a spin to find out which of these motorcycles is best suited for the urban landscape. So from torque to tech, from comfort to cost, we pit these motorcycles to tell you which of them deserves a spot in your garage.
When we first laid our eyes on the TVS Raider a few years back, I remember saying it over-delivered. It punched way above its weight in the 125cc premium commuter space. And I wasn't alone, because that year it snatched the coveted Indian Motorcycle of the Year award. And in its own segment at the market, it became a bit of a sales superhero. And speaking of hero, not the one to be sitting silently in one corner, they're throwing in the hat in the ring with the new Xtreme 125R. It's like David is lining up another stone for the Goliath in the Raider. In this day and age, we expect a bit more flair, don't we? In fact, when it comes to features, the Raider just smashes it out of the park. In its standard trim, it gets a standard LCD cluster that looks better than the Xtreme, also is easier to read. But the real showstopper is this top-end version with a TFT display. It's got a swanky 5-inch TFT display brimming with tech wizardry. It's got everything. telephony, navigation, a bit of cheeky messaging when you're at standstill, and even the ability to stash your vehicle's documents in a digital format. A true testament to its connected technology prowess. Even 2 years post-launch, competitors are still scrambling to match these offerings. And the goodies don't stop there. The Raider comes equipped with a USB charging port essential for our gadget-filled lives, and not one but 2 riding modes, which we'll talk about in a bit. In contrast to the Raider, the most notable feature maybe on the Xtreme is the presence of a kill switch, which by the way does come in handy. And you also get this really tastefully designed sari guard, which is a bit of a shame though, because with the high seating that it has, it's not exactly the best place to perch for your sari-clad companion. Now let's gab about the ergonomics. The Raider is like your favorite armchair, roomy and welcoming with a seat height of 780mm that's easy to get along with. The Xtreme, on the other hand, has you perched high up, feeling like you're commanding the road. But it's the Raider that feels like a bespoke fit. It keeps its cool with a relaxed stance, typical of a commuter bike, while the Xtreme looks ready to pounce, even when you're just cruising. In terms of overtaking, both the bikes do it with breeze, just that this one has a slight bit of edge. You will have a cheeky grin when going past that slow-moving traffic. The Raider flexes its muscle with only a smidge more torque than the Xtreme. But when it comes to in-gear acceleration, the Raider gallops ahead, both in the urban jungle and on the open road. And a quirky tidbit from our tests, the Xtreme is a bit more generous with its speedo error compared to the Raider. In the city and out on the highway, the Raider's engine is like a chilled-out cat lounging in the sun, totally relaxed. The Xtreme, in contrast, feels like it's had one too many espressos. Beyond the 90km/h mark, the engine gets quite buzzy, quite throaty, as if it's auditioning for a garage rock band. It's begging for that 6th gear to smooth things out. The high-strung character of the Xtreme's engine also dips into its fuel economy. On the highway, it barely skimmed the 50km/L mark in our tests. The Raider, meanwhile, struts its stuff close to 60km/L. The city streets tell the same tale. The eco mode on that motorcycle is the real penny pincher. It definitely comes in handy if you are gunning for good fuel economy. And then you have the start-stop tech, which is the icing on the cake. TVS has a knack of sprucing up its RTR line almost annually. So I was all ears. I was hoping they would sprinkle some of that magic potion even on the Raider. Maybe introduce an ABS variant, but clearly they haven't. Now, don't get me wrong, they're still leaning on that combined braking system and it works quite well. It also keeps that nosedive in check compared to the Xtreme. But then in today's day and age where you have concrete roads that are expanding faster than a rabbit's colony, the safety net of an ABS is more than just a nice to have. The Xtreme, meanwhile, drops into the safety dance with more options. You got the standard model flaunting combined braking, or you can step up to the range-topping version you see here with single-channel ABS. The latter also boasts sharper braking and shorter stops than the Raider. The brake levers on the Xtreme lack the smooth, progressive feel you get with the Raider, making it a bit like a grabby handshake, effective, but not as refined. The Raider looks a bit underdressed with these really slim 30mm forks, but surprise, when it comes to actual ride quality out of the box, I think it's really good. It does a really good job. It's a smooth operator at smoothing out those road imperfections, pesky bumps, etc. So if I were to ride on the typical Indian roads, this would be my choice over the Xtreme, which has a bit of that firm edge. Now, the Xtreme suspension isn't exactly like riding a jumpy baboon. It lacks the same level of finesse. However, it shows off its stuff in the handling. When you hit the twisty bits of the tarmac, the Xtreme feels steadier and more in tune with the road than the Raider. Thanks to its beefier forks, the front end is surprisingly sprightlier. And with those chunkier tires, it's like having an extra dose of courage when you're carving up those corners, leaning more towards the apex. So if I were to place my bets, the trophy would go to the Raider as far as the base model showdown goes. But if you're eyeing the top tier variants, then things are going to be a bit different in my books. You see, the Raider justifies its 4,000 rupee premium with that Porsche TFT and connected tech. However, if I was spending my money, I would rather go with the Xtreme 125R ABS, because the safer braking in my books is much better than some fancy hardware. So if you are willing to stretch that budget, I would lean with the Hero. As we tally up the scores, it's a photo finish, with the Raider winning by just a whisker. By 1 point to be exact. So if I were to sum it up, if you are looking for a nice, comfortable commuter and if fuel efficiency is a big criteria for you, then the Raider should keep you happy. But if your heart yearns for something that is sporty, something that is a bit more characterful, in that case, I think the Hero Xtreme 125R could be your motorcycle.
So the TVS Raider or the Hero Xtreme 125R, which is going to be your pick? Let us know in our comment section on our YouTube channel. We'll be back after a very short break to tell you about Ather's first family scooter. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. At the Ather Community Day event in Bengaluru last weekend, Ather has launched the brand's very first family-oriented scooter called the Rizta. Now it is built on a new chassis, has a bigger battery pack, offers more range and of course a big seat considering it's a family scooter. And you can know more about it through Chris. His walk-around video is up next and it is all available at a very attractive price point as well.
We finally have a new face to an Ather scooter. Now this is the newly introduced Rizta. Now there are two variants on offer. There's the Rizta S and the Rizta Z. Now the Rizta S, well, that's the entry-level variant. Well, it retails for around 1,10,000 rupees. Moving on to the Rizta Z, there are two variants of that, two battery versions. The lower capacity version, well, that will set you back by around 1,25,000 rupees, and the high spec variant, which has the bigger battery, well, that will set you back by 1,45,000 rupees. Now, on the look of it, just from the front, very unique, very different as compared to the sporty looking 450, because this one, well, it's more family focused, more family oriented. That's the way that Ather positioned it. And of course, it doesn't look all that athletic. It looks more staid and but a lot bulkier in comparison. Nice LED lights up front, 12-inch front wheel. That's a telescopic fork. Scooters, well, they do have the same chassis. The chassis of the scooter is based on that of the 450X, but then yes, this is longer, wider, and of course lower center of gravity, once again because of the batteries which are located in the footboard. Now, one of the major USPs of the scooter has to be this large 900 mm feet. It's long, it's wide, and yep, it should be very accommodating, more accommodating than the 450. If you found that to be a problem, well, this one should be a lot better suited to your needs. And of course, under the seat, when you have a large storage bay, that's 34 liters of storage area, and it's very well thought of, in fact, because there's a small compartment here, small section for your, say, your dirty cloth or scooter wiping cloth or your bonnet and stuff like that you want to carry and keep away from your other groceries and luggage. So a full face helmet will fit inside this storage bay, and it also has the capacity to charge Ather's newly launched Ather Hero, well, the helmet, which has the wireless charging capability. So that has been included in the Rizta as well. Pretty nifty. And of course, the scooter looks the part because it doesn't really stinge as far as quality is concerned. The fit and trim is really nice. And of course, it is packing a good amount of features as well. From this is the top end Z variant, so this one gets the Magic Twist throttle. It has Ather's newly launched traction control as well. Now, the higher spec Z variant, it also gets a nice 7-inch TFT screen. On the lower S variant, well, you get a regular LCD screen, more in tune with the 450, the standard variant. Now, with the Rizta S, that is the standard version, you just have one battery pack. So that is the 2.9 kilowatt battery pack, which gives you a range of around 123 kilometers to a complete charge. That's what the company claim, IDC. And with the slightly more advanced tech-savvy Z variant, well, you do have the option of going in for a slightly bigger battery pack. That's the 3.7 kilowatt battery, which will give you a range of around 160 kilometers to a complete charge. Also get a nice backrest for the pillion rider, fixed foot pegs, and a very accommodating scooter. So overall, that's what the scooter is. We're going to be riding it sometime in a couple of months. So do let us know what you think about it.
With that, it's a wrap wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms, and you can write to us on YouTube as well. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.